Nomiki show. Clash momentarily for class solidarity. Cash circulating, give the masses back its currency. Greed from elites, oligarchs stay fed. Deep state, faith fed, everybody break bread. Racism, homophobia, sexism, religion in this melting pot we live in. Time to build a new system, unionize labor rights. Highlight the issue, talking heads left is best. The saga continues. The Nomiki show.
Hello and welcome to TNS Live. It's Tuesday, 8 p.m. This is TNS Live. This is the night where we dive in deep. We have an extended conversation with some of our favorite guests and thinkers and activists and organizers and leaders. And tonight we are talking with the one and only, I would say he's like the leader of the Amazon movement right now, organizing movement, Chris Smalls, who is, of course, in the parking lot right now outside of the Amazon warehouse in Staten Island, New York City. Chris, what's up? How are you? How you holding up? Do you ever take a break?
I wish. I'm good though. I'm busy as always, but I'm in good spirits because we have, great news to deliver.
Good. So Chris is, of course, a former Amazon employee. He's the founder of the Congress of Essential Workers, and you've been an ALU, of course. You've been fighting really since the beginning of the pandemic, when Amazon, of course, went after you for doing the ungodly thing of worrying about your safety and security during, especially the beginning of the pandemic, when companies were just getting away with the worst, and they still are. But now they've hired lobbyists and have all these loopholes that they can work around. But in the beginning, they weren't protecting you guys, and you helped expose more of the conditions that Amazon, of course, was putting, was producing so much, made a lot of money because folks were ordering things at home during lockdown. But just to remind folks, before we get into like your latest work, can you talk about what happened in the beginning? I know you've told the story a million times, but for anybody who's missed it or wants to hear it again or needs a nice little reminder, how did this all start?
Yeah, absolutely. Back in March 2020, obviously, New York City area was the epicenter of the world. Over here, JFK, Staten Island, this warehouse full of 5,000 workers from all over the tri-state area, myself included, was unprotected. When we were deemed essential workers, Amazon failed to provide the PPE, failed to provide the proper guidelines and protection of its workers. So I felt, as a leader at Amazon, assistant manager, to speak up on the workers' behalf, especially the ones in my department, who I consider my extended family. And when I took further action, I held a protest, a walkout, March 30th. After that protest, Amazon decided to let me go.
That was what? That was like not even 2 weeks after the global pandemic was announced. So you felt this early.
Yeah.
When you decided to stage this walkout, organizing a walkout takes a lot of time and energy. So I imagine there must have been conditions well before the pandemic that really led to this moment. What was it like pre-pandemic, lack of providing PPE? What was there a vibe in your facility that folks were unhappy before that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear the controversy about Amazon's working conditions all the time. Pre-COVID, definitely, I was already mentally exhausted. I've been with the company 4.5 years.
Wow.
I opened up 3 buildings, 3 major fulfillment centers. JFK was just my last one, but I had 2 prior. And I worked a number of Christmas seasons. They call it peak season. So the long hours, the 12-hour shifts, the commutes that are 2.5 hours each way. You can imagine how mentally exhausted I was already. And then the added pressure of COVID, seeing my coworkers get sick, my colleagues get sick around me, and the company disregarding that. That was pretty much the icing on the cake for me. So it was a no-brainer, especially in a life and death situation, to speak up. And that's exactly what I did.
So, okay, when you get to this point, I'm sure there are at this point thousands and thousands and thousands of workers at Amazon. before COVID, before this organizing started to happen, who had similar feelings, but you really took the initiative. And I'm wondering, like, what inspired you to go from being frustrated and angry and whatever, exhausted, to walking out versus, say, just quitting, which a lot of people sometimes do, and finding another job, or I mean, why? What? Like, that's a strategy. And like, did you see other people doing it? Were you inspired by something? Had you had experience in labor before?
No, I haven't. I just honestly, I felt like I was doing the right thing. Just
Mm,
decent human, human decency.
yeah.
I didn't want anybody to contract this virus and bring it home to their family, their children,
Right.
their grandparents, their parents. I just was trying to protect everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even management, they're people too. So I
Mm,
felt that the company would do the right thing, especially the fact that I've been employed for quite a while. I had a strong presence in the building. Everybody knew who I was. I was very popular. Um, and they didn't. They chose to choose the retaliate against me. And
mm.
what motivated me, to be honest with you, was obviously the smear campaign with Jeff Bezos sitting in on the meeting, calling me not smart or
There it is, right there.
and ironically, they said to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts against Amazon. So I
Okay,
said,
so let's go back to that, because this is I know you've told the story before many times, but I am fascinated. Like, you decided to stage this walkout. How many folks came out for the walkout
for the
first
original
day?
one,
Yeah, for the first
uh,
one.
it was about uh, 50 to 60 people.
How'd you get them to come out? Were you talking to them quietly? I mean, I don't want you to give away
No,
tactics, because
no, no,
obviously
no.
this is
Yeah, I
important.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's it was easy. I mean, we we all agreed that there was something wrong. We sat in the cafeteria every day. I sat in the cafeteria every morning leading up to the
Mhm.
walkout for 10 hours a day,
Jeez.
and I pretty much was telling every worker that I saw the truth out of my mouth. Like, hey, we're sitting in the cafeteria off the clock, in solidarity with what's going on about COVID. And we want to go home. We want to be protected. We want to be paid. Um, Workers every day, the group would grow bigger and bigger. It started off real small, like 10 people the first day, the next day, 15. By the end of the week, I had 40, 50 people sitting in the cafeteria.
Mhm.
So on Saturday, the last day before the walkout, they quarantined just me and nobody else. Like, so senior management came in the cafeteria and called me to the side by myself, nobody else, and that's how they quarantined me.
And
And I
and
felt,
why did they? What was the excuse? Like, had you been exposed? Did you test positive? Like, what was the reason?
well, we all was exposed.
Exactly. That's why I'm
so,
saying, like,
so the funny thing is, the person that I told them was positive because my colleague who I work hand in hand with, she texted me and told me her results came back positive.
mm,
He was around everybody in my department. We're talking hundreds of people for a number of days in a row. So everybody was exposed. And I told them
jeez.
this. I showed them my phone. I showed them the text. They said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We got to do an investigation." And then they decide that I came in contact with her. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, duh. I told you this 3, 4 days ago." And they only quarantined me. So I said, you know what? They're doing this not to help people. They're doing this to silence me
That's right.
from telling everybody else the truth. So that's why I continued to do the walkout. Basically, I had the workers passing notes in here. They put notes in the bathroom. It's funny. We actually did like a union campaign before the anti-union stuff actually existed in
Yeah.
this building, at least. And we put the stuff in the bathroom. We had like group chats on social media, and everybody knew what to do when it came to March 30th.
Okay, so you stage this walkout, and then this is when, like, the big guys, the like, this is like global leaders of Amazon. I mean, for folks, do you have a sense of how many Amazon warehouses there are around the world, just to put this in context of how serious they took this?
Well, I can tell you there's over 1.5 million employees worldwide.
Wow. Over 1.5 million employees worldwide. And you got to think, like, I mean, in the US, in every major city, small city, there's got to be a warehouse or many
Oh yeah,
warehouses.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, because, we're all getting like, I live in New York and you open up your Amazon, like, oh, you can get it to you in like 3 hours if you want it. Like, what? That requires major logistics. And of course, globally, it's probably not as widespread, but still there are other facilities. So this got all the way up to Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
All the way up to Jeff Bezos. So how did this happen? How did he? I mean, he barely even responded to, of course, the factory collapsing in the middle of a space mission, where Amazon workers, like amazing people, were killed, and they were conscious of the fact that they weren't allowed to be outside. So it took him like 15 hours to respond to that.
Right.
But yet you created a walkout, and he was tipped off about this and immediately retaliated. What happened?
Well, I just think that the timing of what happened to me. Once again, you're talking about COVID-19 in the very beginning, when actually in New York, I believe at the time, people were dying at a rate of every 15 minutes. So the media frenzy, the controversy around Amazon was really under a microscope. And I just believe that he had no choice but to respond the way he did. Unfortunately, fortunately for us and myself, somebody in that room that meeting was held didn't agree with what was being said. That's how the conversation leaked out anyway.
Interesting.
But unfortunately, it took death. It took people dying for him to respond, and it shouldn't have been that way.
We're going to take a really quick break, and we're going to continue this conversation at rokfin.com/Nomiki with Chris Smalls. We're going to talk about what you guys are doing now, what the organizing effort's looking like again, because you did organize one time around, you're going at it again. And of course, what it's looking like around the country, especially in light of just last week's news with the tornado. People, I think, are really starting to wake up and understand how anti-worker this company is. And I guess we'll just talk about what the strategy is for you guys and what's happening around the country. So we'll be right back with Chris Smalls. Hold tight. Move on over to rokfin.com/Nomiki if you aren't already there. We are talking to the one and only Chris Smalls, who is at Amazon right now because he's always organizing every day. He's in his car. I love it. It's his commitment. And I mean, I gotta say, it's like you're already working way too hard and stressed out and going, completely being exploited when you're working for companies like this. And then to actually organize, it requires just as much, if not more, energy. So, I hope you have a little bit of time to take care of yourself, because you're doing really powerful work, and just wanted to recognize that for folks to understand like how much commitment this is. But
Thank you.
we'll be right back. We'll be back in like 2 seconds. Stick around and go join us at rokfin.com.